All right. So basically, when we went through the whole thing with Liz, she talked a lot about build, about having your songs build in the production. That was a big thing with her.
So I thought this one had a really nice forward-moving beat. That's really important in TV. You want a lot of times to have those songs that move the action forward instead of dragging it back. So that's great. I have the same comment that I did with the last one, where you might want to just consider having a few more changes in the song in terms of the instrumentals, more strong ups and downs. This is just a comment I get from people a lot on the production side, that more changes in the song. So adding like more builds and stuff like that can really help it sit behind dialogue.
Just like in a film where you have a storyline from the beginning to the end of the film, like you have basically the arc of a story that happens from the front to the end of a film. There's a bunch, they always weave in little sub stories, right? There's, you could have a story about, let's pick Star Wars, okay? So the arc of the story is about the rebels fighting the Empire, right? That's the deal, and eventually triumphing over the monster, which is the Empire. Within that, we have a bunch of sub-stories. We've got like the thing that's going on with Leia between Luke and Han Solo, sort of before we sort of know exactly what their relationship is. We've got the whole thing with Obi-Wan and Luke's past and his relationship with his uncle and his father. There's all of these sort of sub-stories that go on. So generally, as we're watching a film, those little sub-stories are what keep us going. They keep us interested in what is happening, because it takes 2 hours to get to really assimilate the whole story of what actually happens. So in a song, it's sort of the same thing. That's why you can't take a hook in a song, for example. Say there's a hook in a chorus. You can't take the hook and just put it on repeat, right? And then call it your song. It won't work. It's just the way our brains work. We can't assimilate, once we hear it, we think, oh, that's kind of cool, catchy, and you hear it again and again and again. We're instantly bored. We need change. We need those differentiating sub-stories in the song, so which are the verses and the pre-choruses and the choruses and the bridge. One way to take the whole arc of the story, which is what Liz was talking about, and make that really powerful, is you take the idea, like say you Star Wars again, you have that building arc, right? Starting off sort of small, and the end is usually like a fireworks display. You do the same pattern with fireworks, right? Starts off kind of slow, big finale. So when you're doing that to a song, the easiest way to make those changes throughout the song on repetitive parts is to put in build, right? So you've got all of these things that you're building into your song. There's something else to see. There's something new and bigger and better to experience. So that's really what we're doing throughout the song.
Like I said, the vocals are fantastic. And, if you're so inclined, you could put in a stronger chorus in there just to have a little bit more build. And that might take care of the problem with the song, the beat being a little bit repetitive.
And then you should have things that mark the chorus, right? So that's another trick you can use in your song production. It's called marking. And what that means is that you're going to mark the beginnings. Usually you don't have to mark a verse, because once you start singing and you're telling a story and people haven't heard much before that, they're already cued in. You don't have to say, hey, this is the start of the song, because it just started. You go through the verse and then you go into a pre-chorus. You generally, not always, but you generally, it's a good idea to mark it with a new instrument or a new element, or singing it slightly differently, or bringing in the background vocals, or having some little hook underneath, or maybe a synth pad, or it can be subtle, it can be big, but generally it's good to mark it, because we just like that. We like to know it's moving into this section. It could be a downstroke of an acoustic guitar coming in. It could be the drums changing a beat. But where I really try to focus is making those differences really apparent in between the verses, the pre-choruses, and the choruses, either through adding more instruments. So these little sub-stories, I'm doing these builds within those things, using the marking technique, and then like opposing colors. Like if you're color correcting in film or something, there's a neat thing called color contrast, which means that you take opposing colors. So you take like a skin tone. That's why actually teal and orange, if you don't know this, teal and orange is a big deal in film. You know, a lot of films you'll see use this color grading technique, is that you'll notice that there's like an orange element and then this teal element. Like the teal is usually in the shadows, right? That bluish, light blue color that's in everything else other than the skin tones, which tend to be a little more on the orangey side. So those really pop out against its opposite color, which is teal. So, or the complementing color, which is teal. And it's basically color science. It's not a fad. It's a very smart way to color grade film and make things really sort of pop, is using those things, and it's called color contrast. And I try to do the same thing in music when I produce, right? I try to use these complementing, like these opposing forces that complement each other to really make you realize, wow, that's a cool change.
You might want to consider having a few more rises and falls within the song, just to have a little bit, have a few more changes throughout. But overall, I thought it was great and basically there.
This is where the production quality comes into it. Now, you've heard me talk about it all the time, like your production has to be great, right? It's got to be 90% of the way there. You've heard music supervisors say the exact same thing, right? Pretty much everyone that's been on has said that, like your production has to be as good as everything else getting into TV and film. It's a super important thing. Now, production is not just make it sound slick or make it sound loud or make it sound like the thing that's on the radio. That, yes, that's a part of it, but it goes deeper than that. What is great production? Well, here's an example. I was on the beach with my wife and my daughter. We were having a beach picnic, which we love to do sometimes. And I went for a little walk down the beach with my daughter, and I saw this couple up on a hill, up on the sand further away, sort of embracing quite vigorously, like more than you'd expect in public. Not like raunchy or anything, but just kind of like, wow, that's passionate. Of course, glanced at it, gave them some privacy, kept walking along, but kind of can't help but look like, whoa, what's going on? And then on the way back from the little walk, I saw them sitting on the blanket. I just sort of glanced up and I saw the girl looking down at her finger. And I went, I know what just happened there. So I went back to the blanket and I got my iPhone, and they were just the two of them, just sort of sitting on a blanket. And I walked up to them, not too close, just kind of came up and said, hey guys, if I think if what happened is what I think just happened, would you like me to take some pictures of you, And they were like, oh my God, that'd be amazing. So then I was in charge of trying to try to capture this great moment. They'd just gotten engaged. And they were from another country. They were, I think, German or Dutch or something, their accent. And I used their phone, and I kind of tried to get the sun was going down. I tried to get it all right and got some good, decent shots. They were super happy with. They were over the moon about that. So, but the interesting thing about it is that if there was a professional photographer standing next to me, right, taking those same shots that I was, theirs would come out so much better than mine, right? I did a good job, don't get me wrong, but I'm not a photographer. So the photographer would have definitely nailed it. And it's because of that, those things that they know about composition and lighting and all of that stuff, even the resolution on their camera they can adjust, and then color grading and things like that. So those are really important things to learn about music production. So it's not just about make it sound as good as you can, use the latest samples, get the best microphone and record yourself, as best you can. Yes, those all matter. You have decent gear and you're doing a good job of capturing your tracks. You're using good samples. After that is where all the other stuff comes in. So you can, of course, hire people like myself and people online to do that. But I encourage you to try to learn more yourselves about it, right? And so you can find so much of that information online, or take a course or something like that. I really encourage you to do that going forward.
So I thought that this one was really great. I think it's ready. I thought that the vocals were fantastic. They were just really caught me. The progression of the song was really nice. It builds nicely. And the lyrics were interesting and gave me something a little bit different than the typical lyrics. So, I really was a fan of this one.